she was found guilty of war, wanting of these allegations. But at least on the face or bare value of the allegations that were before the Council of State and the President, as well as the response that the Chief Justice had given to these petitions, she needed to answer. Then the next question was that if that prima facie had been established, but the processes aligned by Article 146 of the Constitution, the President was supposed to form a committee, a 5-member committee, to now investigate and have, see, a trial, for want of a better word, of a sort of the Chief Justice to determine if indeed she is guilty or have committed the allegations leveled against her, which would then culminate into her removal. But while these proceedings are ongoing, the Constitution by Article 146, Clause 10, gives the discretion to the President to decide whether or not the Chief Justice should step aside by a warrant signed by him in consultation with the Council of State.
The President is just going according to the dictates of the Constitution.
Certainly. So after we heard information that the prima facie had been established, the questions and what we were seeking to now get was which people were going to form part of the 5-member committee, and 2, whether the President was going to exercise the discretion that has been granted him by Article 146, Clause 10 of the 1992 Constitution. Later, or the end of last week, we had information that he had taken the decision to suspend him, to suspend her. So before the weekend, and this before the Easter festivities, we're anticipating the communication of this information. What we've also had was that the presidency was hoping to make an official communication to the Chief Justice herself before communicating to the media. And so for the news to come out today, I mean, it is news, but not news, because a number of persons who had their ears close to the presidency had already given indication that this particular decision had been taken.
Definitely. You're still watching Channel 1 TV, coming to you live from our studio here. The news is that President John Dramani Mahama has suspended the Chief Justice of the Republic and has set up a 5-member committee to investigate some 3 petitions that were brought to the President or sent to the President in respect of misconduct in court against the Chief Justice. Fred, I remember very well having a conversation with you in the newsroom in respect of this particular issue. So now that she's been, suspended, a 5-member committee is expected to investigate this matter. If the committee finds out that there's nothing wrong, does it mean she has to be reinstated or go back to her job?
So, Sammy, before we jump to the gun to that place, the Chief Justice has not been removed from office.
Just suspended? She's
just been suspended.
Okay.
She's been asked to step aside so that she could go through the investigation or its investigative committee, meet the committee would go through its work. As we speak, there are 3 petitions. So the committee will look at each petition, would get the petitioners to come and testify. If there are witnesses, they'll call witnesses. If the Chief Justice will be given the opportunity to also respond to these petitions against her, if she also wants to call witnesses, she would call witnesses. After this, then a decision will be taken as to whether she still remains in office or she's removed from office. So as we speak now, she's not been removed from office. She's been suspended. And she just has taken a step away from performing her regular duties.
But do we know how long this will take? Or it depends on the terms of reference of the committee.
We are not sure how long this will take. For example, when there was the Anas investigative piece, where some judges were found to have engaged in some corrupt practices, a similar process was put in place. That process took as long as 3 months, if I'm not mistaken, to get these justices finally removed because they were found to have engaged in practices which was against the law. So there's no actual time frame for this investigative committee to do its work. But I am sure with the seriousness of this matter, usually they would expedite the process. But like I mentioned earlier, there are 3 different petitions, and these petitions will not be taken as one. Each one will be dealt with differently.
Okay.
because there are different petitioners. So they'll call the first petitioner.
So she has to answer for all 3 petitions against her?
Yes.
So one dealt after the other?
So they'll deal one after the other.
Okay.
So if, say, Hansen is the first petitioner, they'll go through Hansen's case, should go through the process and respond to Hansen's case. If I am the second petitioner, they'll go through my case. We'll go through the same process. I bring witnesses, I testify, she comes to testify. Then they'll go to you, who is the third petitioner.
This will take a long while.
But it's important. It's important to point out that the decision to suspend the Chief Justice is a discretion the Constitution has given to the President, and so in that same thinking, Article 146, Clause 11 gives that same power to the President to revoke any suspension. So even though the processes as elaborated by Fred, in your view, may take quite a long time, if the President, in his own view, think that where investigations have got into, he thinks that the Chief Justice can still be performing her role as a Chief Justice while investigations continue, the Constitution, by Article 146, Clause 11, gives that same power to the President to revoke this suspension. And so I think that we may not know the time frame for which the hearing of these petitions will take, but 3 sets of petitions will go into full-blown trial where the Chief Justice will be allowed to face her accusers, should be allowed to cross-examine them if possible, or cross-examine their witnesses to challenge certain allegations. They will be allowed to also respond to the petition, to her response to these petitions. And so it's an elaborate process. Mind you, in determining the prima facie case, the case that Esofo sent to court was to say that the Chief Justice should be allowed to respond to the petitions. The President agreed to a letter written by Her Ladyship, Justice Gertrude Torkornoo, that she should be allowed to respond to these petitions. However, we don't know on record if the petitioners were also made to respond to her response. Yeah. But when it gets to the full-blown investigations now, as Fred has put it, petitioner A will have his allegations. He'll be given the opportunity to prove these allegations in the way deemed fit and practices that the committee will adopt. Either he will be allowed to bring witnesses to provide evidence before the committee. The Chief Justice then will also now be allowed to make a response, and if she has any counter evidence whatsoever, and then her accuser will also have the option of challenging her response, and that will be for petition A, and then same will be done for petition B and C. There are three petitions, and so we cannot be certain or give an indication of the timelines for the hearing of the matter. But with respect to the suspension, what we know is that the President has exercised this discretion in line with his consultation with the Council of State to suspend her. However, the President, by that same Constitution, has a power to revoke that suspension if he deems it fit.
Fred, so for now, what happens? Will there be an acting Chief Justice to head the judiciary till this particular committee finishes its work and gives out its recommendations?
Yes, I mean, so when the Chief Justice is not available, the senior-most Supreme Court judge acts as Chief Justice. So as we speak now, the senior-most Supreme Court judge is Justice Bafuboni.
Okay.
So he is going to take the stead as the Chief Justice, acting for the day-to-day activities of the judiciary. So Justice Bafuboni will now be handling the duties of the Chief Justice till a decision is taken by the President.
But is it the first time we are seeing this happen? Is it the first time? For those of us who do not know, is it the first time we are seeing a Chief Justice being suspended?
This is actually the first time in the Fourth Republic we are witnessing anything of a kind, where you have a certain Chief Justice being suspended. It's never happened with the Fourth Republic.
Yeah.
And what comes close is the issue which had to do with the promotion of a Chief Justice. when the court, initially this country had its highest court being the Court of Appeal, where you had Justice Apalu, who was then the Chief Justice when the Court of Appeal was there. When there was the introduction of the Supreme Court, there was an issue whether Justice Apalu could be made Chief Justice. This issue, in fact, he was not made Chief Justice. He went to court to challenge that particular decision. This was the case which was led by our former president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Jackie Chikata, where the court later indicated or ruled that Justice Apalu could take keep his job as the head of the judiciary at the time when he was removed from that particular position. But in the Fourth Republic, there's nothing of the sort. The chief justices we've had from the very beginning of the Fourth Republic have all served their term and have exited. We've never seen a case where the president has been petitioned, the petition goes through the entire process, and a prima facie case is seen and the justice is removed. We've never seen that in the Fourth Republic. This is actually the first time we are seeing that in the Fourth Republic.
Hansen, you are a friend of the court. I mean, you correspond for us in the courtroom. What has been the reaction? What have you picked up so far from lawyers and judges in respect of this particular issue?
Well, it's a matter of a mixed reaction. Of course, the process, as outlined in the Constitution for the removal of the Chief Justice, has been one that there have been attempts in past, and Fred makes mention of the Justice Fred Apalu case, and then there are attempts like during the time of President Kufuor, Justice Edward Kwame Redu, Justice Georgina Theodore. They've been attempts to remove chief justices, but it's not gotten to a point where a prima facie case has been established before. I mean, even you remember Justice Gertrude Torkornoo herself, in the dying end of the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo administration, there was a petition where the president said there was no prima facie case for her removal. But this has gotten to a point where now not only have these petitions advanced to the investigative part, it has also gotten to where the president has exercised that discretion to suspend her. And for some, for those who think that the petitions raise genuine questions, they think that is a good way to go. But they are also saying that consider the context within which this is being done. This is a chief justice that has been accused of a lot of things by the ruling government. And so within the time frame and the context within which this is happening, any attempt to remove, in their view, is a political move and not an objective process. And these people seem to align with the argument of the NPP members in Parliament, essentially to say that, I mean, the relevant portions for the removal of a chief justice is that you cannot remove a chief justice except for stated misbehavior, incompetence, or on ground of inability to perform the functions of his office arising from infirmity of body or mind. The argument these people make is that if the removal of Justice Gertrude Torkornoo is successful, because the idea of stated misbehavior and also on inability, for instance, the point on stated misbehavior, there are no limits to what is stated misbehavior, and they refer to what happened to Charlotte Osei, for instance, to say that procurement breaches amounted to stated misbehavior. Then you now put the office of the Chief Justice as part of those political offices when new governments come in. They want to do...
Is the fear of many. The idea is that if this is a precedent, if this happens, any future government may or will also make such an attempt to remove a chief justice who they perceive, to be moving. How would I want to put it? Who may perceive not to be in alliance with a particular government. And so, if we should allow this to happen, remember when the minority had a press conference about a week ago when they also raised this same issue. You don't think the political undertone may not settle well with the country's judiciary?
Sami, this particular action being taken opens the floodgates to so many things.
Yeah.
You know, you would have to consider two things. Let's consider first your concern and the concerns of many others, that we are treading on a very dangerous ground where we take a petition and remove a Chief Justice based on when the grounds are not so serious.
Yeah.
Where now somebody will come and now say, okay, the first government did it, I'm going to do it.
Also do it.
There are loopholes within the laws where anybody can take advantage of to get such actions taken. So yes, the people who raise concerns about opening the floodgates for future governments and presidents to also take such an action are justified, because you see, the Constitution, I believe, created the judiciary and made it an independent body for a reason. So I mean, you look at the last 20, 30 years of our existence as a country, or even from the very first republic, you'd realize that constantly there's been a change in the executive, there's been a change in the legislature. What has always remained and has been kept is the judiciary, where you hardly see the people from the executive or legislature touch. The judiciary has remained an independent backbone of this country, where we see them actually step in when they have to step in, to stop certain atrocities when they have to stop these atrocities. So now when you see these politicians now having to meddle
in the affairs, of the judiciary,
to the
extent
of the removal of the Chief Justice, now it's likely to open the floodgates, where now everybody sees that it can be done. So we will do it. Now let's look at the other side of this issue. If the Chief Justice is found to have done something which is very grave, which someone believes or a citizen believes that is wrong, and hence she should be held liable for, are we also going to say that because of the fact that we are going to find a way, or we are going to touch the judiciary and it's going to open the floodgates, we should leave that person to remain just to save and protect the sanctity of the judiciary? You see the two arguments. So we find ourselves in a very difficult position as a country, where we are going to look at what are the merits of these petitions. Do these petitions deserve the Chief Justice, or concerns raised, or these stated grounds for removal? Are they good enough to remove a Chief Justice? Then secondly, what would we be doing to ourselves politically? How are we going to influence the works of the judiciary with this action which might be taken for the removal of the Chief Justice? So we find ourselves in a very difficult position. And for me, the people who have been nominated or selected to hear this petition, the committee, need to hear it impartially, because the future of our country, the future of our judiciary,
will lie mostly on the decision they will take.
Depends on them.
That's
Depends on them.
That's true. I agree with you.
You understand? It depends on them. So if really there's a merit for her removal, it should be beyond reasonable doubt that there's a merit and she needs to be removed. You understand? They need to ensure that political influence do not take center stage in their investigative work. They need to ensure that they are not used by the political class to make a decision. As we speak now, the decision has been made that she goes to face this committee. But now the members of the committee will now have to work impartially, work and ensure that they are working for Ghana and not for particular individuals. Yes, we've raised concerns of how the NDC in opposition raised issues with the Chief Justice, how some of them, even before today, their Deputy General Secretary indicated that they were going to get the Chief Justice removed. You've seen their friends on the other side who are going all out to protect the Chief Justice. It's become too political. The issue has become too political. And I don't think we should leave this issue for the politicians. I am glad that there's been a committee set up. When you look at the background of these people are well-respected persons of our society. You look at Justice Gabriel Pwaman. Justice Gabriel Pwaman was nominated to the Supreme Court in 2015. He's remained in the Supreme Court till date. Justice Samuel Kwame Edibu-Asiedu went to the Supreme Court in 2022. But when you look at his background, Justice Asiedu started his law work with the, what do you call them? As a lawyer, grew through the process and entered the court system as a magistrate. Went as a magistrate, went through the process, then at the end of the day became a Supreme Court in 2022. But he had worked with Shraj.
Oh, okay.
He started as a lawyer and worked with Shraj. You understand? So he's no mean person to be on this particular committee. His background, even outside being a judge, puts him at the right place to be able to determine this matter. You look at former auditor, Yao Domelovo. This is a very respected man. Respected internationally, respected in this country. And we've known him when it comes to his work and what he means with his work, where he believes that the right things would need to be done. Where at a point he stood up against government when the entire government was against him. This is someone we can stick our heads out for when it comes to integrity.
And he's a member of Oral. That cannot be taken out.
Yes, he is a member of Oral. He's a member of Oral. We have Major Flora Dalugu. She's from the Ghana Armed Forces. Look at the discipline within the Ghana Armed Forces. Look at the processes you go through when you're in the Ghana Armed Forces. She's a major. She's a senior officer of the Ghana Armed Forces. There's some kind of respect, some kind of integrity to be in the Ghana Armed Forces with the position of a major. Professor James Sefajisa, he's with the Humanities Department of the University of Ghana, Sociology. It takes some kind of work to get there. You understand? So the future of this country, the future of the independence of the judiciary, where nobody will have a doubt as to whether politicians are the hands behind it or a decision which is made purely on evidence available to the committee, depends on these people. And they have a serious work to do. I don't want to be in their shoes.
I mean, the composition of that committee is directed by the Constitution. And if you look at the wording of that composition, it's one that the framers of the Constitution wants people who are of the same peer with the Chief Justice and people who are not within the legal system to be those who will come together and then make a determination, hoping that if you are bringing that balance, so for instance, the 5-member committee is supposed to be made up of 2 justices of the Supreme Court. In our case, Justice Pwaman and Justice Asiedu. And then 3 persons who are not supposed to be members of the Council of State, who are not supposed to be lawyers, and who are not supposed to be members of Parliament. And I mean, look at our country at the moment. What are some of the very enviable places that people want to be? I mean, a lot of people want to be persons who are not supposed to be members of the Council of State. And so who may feel your shoes, who may have a certain form of empathy for you. And so the framers of the Constitution set up these the committee in such a manner that if that committee comes out and say that indeed the Chief Justice is guilty for the allegations leveled against her in this particular matter, then people would have to accept it, because there are two persons who would agree with certain challenges that you may have faced in line of your duty, that you may or may not have done something. And then there are three other persons who are not engaged in the day-to-day activities of the court or in our politics, who will look at it from an objective point of view. And so the point Fred makes about they having an important role to play, I think that the Constitution itself, by its creation, sets it in a very unique manner so that when they do an objective work and bring out their findings, at least the entirety of Ghanaians or the majority of Ghanaians will agree with it.
Hansen Ajimai, our court correspondent, as well as Fred Tete Jabano here with us. And my name is Samit Wiafe. You're still watching Channel 1 TV, coming to you live from our studio here in Accra. The breaking news is that President John Dramani Mahama has suspended the Chief Justice of the Republic and has set up a 5-member committee to look into the 3 petitions that were forwarded to him in respect of misconduct in court against the Chief Justice. We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll discuss more.
This April, 97.3 City FM invites you to join us for a powerful journey of faith, reflection, and connection in our seasons of prayer. As we step into this season of renewal, we bring you a month-long special encounter that will uplift your spirit and strengthen your soul. Whether you're seeking peace, guidance, or simply a deeper connection in faith, this is the perfect opportunity to come together in prayer and find inspiration in the midst of daily life issues. It's time to reflect, refuel, and reconnect. So, mark your calendars, gather your loved ones, and be part of something truly reviving. Seasons of Prayer is on 97.3 City FM this April. Stay tuned and let's pray together for brighter days ahead. It's from the 1st to the 30th of April 2025. Tune in to Midnight Cry from 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. This is your day from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. and Prayer Encounter from 12 noon to 1 p.m. Call 0244 981112 for more information. Let the power of prayer guide you this season. Seasons of Prayer is powered by 97.3 City FM.
Welcome. It's Play to Aid.
Get ready for the game show where every play has a purpose. Welcome to Play to Aid, the only game show where your knowledge and skill don't just win you prizes, they help change lives.
What sport is considered the most popular in the world?
Come on.
Football.
Every point you earn goes toward real-world support, from school supplies to health kits, clean water to emergency relief. Play smart, play big, Play to Aid. Catch all the action, the drama, and the heat.
Most commonly spoken language in Brazil.
Portuguese.
Play to Aid every Sunday at 3:30 p.m. only on Channel 1 TV.
Edna, let's begin.
The Play to Aid game show is proudly sponsored by Tang Palace, Giraffe Island, and VVIP.
In a world filled with challenges, we all need guidance, hope, and a lifeline to anchor us.
This is Lifeline, and I'm your host, Fred Crunchy Mensah.
From social issues, relationship challenges, and family matters, Lifeline is here to inspire, uplift, and guide you on your journey.
Where we give you support, where we hold your hand through the valley and through the thick and thins of life.
Join Bishop Fred Crunchy Mensah.
I welcome you especially to Lifeline.
Every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 p.m. right here on Channel 1 TV. Let's walk this path together, strengthen our faith, our families, and our lives. Lifeline, because every soul deserves a guiding light. Tune in to Lifeline on Channel 1 TV and let's grow together.
politics meets power, where the tough questions are asked. Welcome to Face to Face. Every Tuesday at 9 p.m., join Umaru Sanda Amadou as he takes you face to face with the key players shaping the future of our nation.
I lost over $10 million at the trade fair.
You had a fight with the management of trade fair?
I don't have a fight with them. I just deplore the way they went about what they did.
Let's talk about the chief prosecutor of the state at the time that you were being prosecuted, Godfrey Yeboah-Dame, the Attorney General.
Yes. I think he was directed to jail us.
By who?
By the system.
Boku has been a failure for your government, though.
Can't be a failure.
You have not solved it.
No, you are not praising them, the previous government for solving Yende, which was even a more difficult case.
It's quite obvious that from these votes, the people felt that let's just let you go.
So they were disappointed in
us.
You are essentially the worst government in the Fourth Republic.
I don't know how you are doing that. If you based on the indicators.
Yes, based on the number of people who refuse to come and vote for you.
If that is your analysis, then why not?
No filter, no boundaries, just the truth behind the headlines. Deep, bold, and unflinching. Face to Face with Umaru Sanda Amadou airs on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. only on Channel 1 TV, where politics gets real.
What's cooking? You are very welcome to the show where we stir up delicious meals.
So who's Lali and who's Lola? Okay, should we confuse her?
Okay. Give me small water. A little more than you pour everything. So now if the thing doesn't cook well,
it will be you.
We share inspiring stories.
I was planning to move to Ghana and I was looking for tea. Whenever I come to Ghana on holiday, I was always looking for different types of tea.
You were really in the UK before?
Yeah, I was in the UK.
And we savor every single moment at the dining table.
I said, what's cooking? Nobody minded me. But as there are judges here, in fact, all rise.
Why are you like this?
Because I'm going to judge here.
My name is Apioko Seyram Ashong Abe, and I am your host. Apioko is enough for me, and here on the show, I'm ready to take you through everything that you need to know in the kitchen of kitchens.
Wow. It's beautiful. It's really lovely. Really fragrant. It's almost like perfume.
Yeah. What is macaroni pie? If you ask any Barbadian, they'll tell you that one of their favorite dishes is macaroni pie.
So it's time. Grab your apron, sharpen your knives, and get ready to get cooking with me right here on What's Cooking.
What's Cooking is brought to you by Tasty Tom, Kivo Pepper, and Suzy Herbal Center.
You're still watching Channel 1 TV, coming to you live from our studio here in Accra. Breaking news story is that President John Dramani Mahama has suspended the Chief Justice of the Republic after 3 petitions were sent to him in respect of allegations of misconduct against the Chief Justice. The President has subsequently set up a 5-member committee chaired by Justice Gabriel Scopama to head this committee to investigate these allegations or these petitions and the issues raised in air, and then forward their recommendations to the President. So for now, the President has suspended the Chief Justice of the Republic pending the outcome of the committee's investigating. My name is Sami Wiaf, and I'm here with 2 of my colleagues from the newsroom, Fred Tete Jabano and Hansen Ajimai. Hansen, before we went on that break, you were making a point, but let me come to Fred. I know very well, and I started to be corrected that there's an aspect in the Constitution that says that this particular work of the committee must be done in camera. Is that it?
Yes, the committee's work will be done in camera.
But for purposes of transparency, can it be done public? So at least the Ghanaian people will know the petitions in there, the issues they raised in there, and how the Chief Justice is going to respond to these petitions for purposes of transparency?
I mean, as a media man and as a member of the public, I would wish that this thing is heard
in public.
But you see, it's clear what the Constitution wants, and there are reasons for it. Some people would not want to come and testify openly.
Okay.
There are certain things which may be said. There are certain things which may occur, which may not be good for the public consumption. That is why I am back to the 5-member committee. The Constitution sets up this 5-member committee and expects that whoever is going to be part of this 5-member committee could represent each member of the public and ensure that the right things are done. So for me, even though we would wish that this could be a process where it will be put on TV, it will be put on radio for everybody to follow through, it doesn't allow that. As I said, this is also not the first time a justice of the court.
Fred, I'll ask you to hold on for me for some few seconds. Understand the spokesperson to the President and Minister of State in charge of Government Communications, Phyllis Kwachofosu, has joined us on the telephone to speak to us in respect of this particular issue because he issued this particular statement. Phyllis, if you can hear me, thank you very much for your time and good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
First of all, there are many who will ask that, was this something the Ghanaian people were expecting?
Well, I'm not able to answer that question. Nothing has happened beyond the president acting within the confines of the 1992 Constitution. A couple of weeks ago, I'm sure you recall that I issued a statement in which I informed the Ghanaian public on behalf of His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama that 3 petitions from 3 different quarters had reached him, all of which allege some wrongdoing against the person of the Chief Justice and demanded her removal from office. The 1992 Constitution is clear that in the event of receipt of a petition of this nature, the President ought to take some steps. In fact, it is not unprecedented. Just before President Mahama took over, in the dying embers of the Akufo-Addo administration, a similar petition was received, and President Akufo-Addo went through the same process that President Mahama has gone through up to this point. So what was the process? Article 146 of the Constitution says that when such a petition is received, the President must consult with the Council of State to determine whether there is prima facie, in other words, there is basis to continue to look into those petitions. And the President did precisely that. He informed the Council of State and told them that he wanted to consult them in order that he forwards the petitions to the Chief Justice for her comments in order to facilitate the determination of the prima facie case. This was done. The petitions were then forwarded to the Chief Justice. She provided her response. The consultation process continued between President Mahama and the Council of State to determine whether when you set the petition or its contents against the Chief Justice's responses, the petition was frivolous or that there was basis to inquire further into them. The consultation process between the Chief Justice and the Council of State yielded an outcome which said that there was basis to proceed further and that the petition was not frivolous on the face of it if you set it side by side with the Chief Justice's response. Now, the Constitution prescribes that if that determination is made, there are a number of things must happen. The first is that a committee made up of 5 persons, 2 of whom, I beg your pardon, are justices of the Supreme Court with 1 chairing, and 3 other members of the public who are neither members of the Council of State nor lawyers. So if you look at the statement I just issued, that requirement is fully met. Now, Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution, that is 146(10), also stipulates that once this is done, the President has power to suspend the Chief Justice pending the final determination of the matter. And that is exactly what President Mahama has done. So every step of the way, President Mahama has shown fidelity to the 1992 Constitution. He has gone strictly by the book and done things in the way that the Constitution specifically provides they should be done.
Felix, the 5-member committee, what went into the selection of these individuals to form this particular committee?
Well, the fact is that the membership is prescribed by the Constitution. The first two must come from the Supreme Court, and one of them must chair. So you see that Justice Gertrude Torkornoo is the chairperson, and Justice Asiedu is a member. The other three are not members of the Council of State. They are not lawyers. So any member of the public, insofar as they meet these criteria, would be eligible. Of course, after some assessment is made about their capacity to be part of such a process. And that is precisely what has been done. So the overriding consideration is a determination that these are persons who have capacity to be part of the work of the committee and ensure that justice is done.
Say justice, forgive me. Felix, let's look at the time frame. Within which period are they supposed to complete their work and present their committee's report to the president for onward action? Within which period?
Well, the Constitution does not provide a time frame within which they are supposed to do their work. But I reckon that they will act within reasonable time limits and it will not drag on unnecessarily.
How do you react to people who say that this is a bad precedent? Because if this is done, any government that also comes in future may also have issues with a Chief Justice appointed by a previous administration and may want to also proceed on the same scale. How do you react to people who say that this is a bad precedent?
Well, I'm not sure how abiding by the Constitution becomes a bad precedent. President Mahama took an oath on 7 January 2025 to stay true and loyal and abide by the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. That is what he has done in this instance. So I am not able to appreciate how anyone can say that if a president acts in accordance with the Constitution, it's a bad precedent. Every president of Ghana, insofar as they take that same oath, is bound to act within the confines of the Constitution. And that is exactly what has happened. It is not unprecedented. I initially told you that President Akufo-Addo went through the same process, except that in his case, he said that there was no prima facie. But the same process was invoked, as President Mahama has done. So I am not certain about the accuracy of the claim that they set a bad precedent. Indeed, President Mahama is not the one determining the guilt or otherwise of the Chief Justice. It is a committee properly appointed and set up in accordance with the Constitution that is going to do so. It is their recommendations that will inform the President's actions when the process is concluded. So I don't think that there's any room for abuse or any form of, if you like, misguided precedents in this particular matter.
Felix, my final question, has the Chief Justice been officially informed? I'm asking this question because when you issued your first statement, she came out to say that she's not been informed about the particular process. That's why I'm asking this particular question, that has she officially been informed about this process?
The first statement I issued only informed the the people of Ghana that 3 petitions have been received. That's all. I can confirm that the Chief Justice and everybody else who has a role to play in this matter have been duly informed. And indeed, she was informed. In other words, she received a letter from the President informing her about this decision before I issued my statement.
Okay, Felix, thank you very much. Felix Kwatio-Fosu, government spokesperson, spokesperson to the President and Minister of State in charge of government communications, speaking to us about a statement he issued a while ago announcing that President Mahama has suspended the Chief Justice of the Republic and has set up a committee to investigate some petitions. There were 3 of them precisely that were sent to him and forwarded to the Council of State. Gentlemen, finally, before we get out of the studio, this one comes to you, Hansen. How do you react to say that this one does not have political undertone?
I mean, it's a difficult question, and once again, I go to the context, right? There are people of influence within the National Democratic Congress who have vowed that when the party comes to power, one of the things that they would do is to reset the judiciary. And in the understanding of the judiciary is to make sure that the Chief Justice goes. We don't know the petitioners, and we don't know the content of the petition. But this does not say that because known persons of the NDC want the Chief Justice to go, it means that the petitions asking for her removal have no basis. And that is why we can only have hope within the structure and architecture as we have in our constitution for the removal of the Chief Justice, that should be given her own, should be given a fair trial at least. I mean, of course, two of her colleagues or former colleagues, as you put it, three other persons who we've known. I mean, Daniel Domlewa, former Auditor General, we know his work within the audit service and the stellar work he's done in other areas, and the other members of the committee. We can only be hopeful that they'll give her that fair trial, and it's incumbent on the committee to give her that fair trial. But going forward, I think I side with those who say we need to look at the process very well and perhaps tighten the process. You know, if you look at Article 146, which deals with the removal of the Chief Justice and the Superior Court Justices, when it came to the Chief Justice, and in the ruling of the Supreme Court in the Frank Ejechum versus Attorney General case, it came that the framers of the Constitution had omitted a critical step, which was to determine first if indeed there was a prima facie case before the determination of, before the formation of the committee. Now, I remember in 2006 when attempts were made to remove Justice George Kingsley Akwa, that was the issue. Now, in this instance, the issue that we've had before this was whether the Chief Justice should be given an opportunity to respond, even at the time of determining a prima facie case. President Akufo-Addo, in the spirit of the decision of, President John Dramani Mahama, sorry, in the spirit of the decision in the Frank Ejechum case, said that there's a need to listen to the Chief Justice. He listened to the Chief Justice together with the Council of State and says, yes, you still have questions to answer. But for me, I think that, you know, the same way we make it difficult to remove, say, a minister, because the minister goes through Parliament, and then when you want to remove
it's very easy to remove.
A member of Parliament, a member of Parliament, when you want to remove a member of Parliament, it is very difficult. And aside the president exercising his power to remove a minister, for instance, if there are petitions for the removal, if Parliament was to go through its own processes of exercising a censure against a minister, the processes are more tedious even than we have for the Chief Justice. And so I agree with those who are saying that we should use the current ongoing constitutional review processes to tighten the process and to perhaps take the president's hand out of the appointing and also the removal of the Chief Justice.
Exactly the question I wanted to ask first, that do you think there's judicial interference as we see now, and you think the review process should have a clear protection clause for the Chief Justice to avoid such occurrences in future?
I think the review committee should look at the Constitution again.
And it has come at the right time.
With regards to the removal of the Chief Justice, and not just the Chief Justice, or other officers who are protected by the Constitution. You understand, the Electoral Commissioner, we should relook at the whole
thing.
Because
we are told the Electoral Commissioner is next.
Their appointment and their removal. It is very necessary. And so, I mean, before we go, I can foresee that this particular suspension is not going to end as we see it. I foresee people going to court to challenge suspension, there are some people who have raised concerns with the discretionary powers of the president. They cite Article 296C of the Constitution, where it says that where the person or authority is not a judge or other judicial officer, there shall be published by constitutional instrument or statutory instrument regulations that are not inconsistent with the provisions of this Constitution, or that other law to govern the exercise of the discretionary power. The power to remove the Chief Justice, to suspend the Chief Justice, is a discretionary power of the President. These people believe that there is a process to be able to go ahead and enforce this discretionary power. I foresee that in the coming days, you see people in court challenging this suspension. But going forward, you said it rightly, Hansen says it rightly, we have an opportunity to correct some of these mistakes, to correct some of these issues which may arise in the future. The Constitutional Review Commission or Committee should relook at the appointment of these justices and the removal of these justices, and ensure that going forward, it becomes a very difficult task to remove a person like that. We don't leave it just to some few people or to the discretionary powers of some individuals to take this decision.
Fetete Jabano, thank you very much. Fetete Jabano, colleague in the newsroom, Hansen Ajimai, another colleague in the newsroom in our court responded. And we brought you the breaking news story. President John Dramani Mahama has suspended the Chief Justice of the Republic and set up a 5-member committee to investigate some 3 petitions that were sent to the President following allegations of misconduct against the Chief Justice. My name is Sami Wiafe. You're still watching Channel 1 TV.
What does luxury mean to you? For me, it's being able to open a tap and have clean water come out. I remember what life was like when I was in school. We sometimes had to fetch muddy water from the river. Sadly, that's still the daily reality of millions of Africans. They don't have access to clean water. So today, we want to put water quality under the microscope. This is the 77%, and I'm your host, Liz Show. Did you know, according to the UN, only 0.5% of water on Earth is available fresh water? More than 2 billion people live without safely managed drinking water. I find that quite shocking. And these are not just numbers, they have real-life consequences. For example, every day, 1,000 children under the age of 5 die due to unsafe water, sanitation, and hygiene. My colleagues, DW hosts Michael and Fatu, sat down to chat about the quality of water in their respective countries, Ghana and the Gambia. And while some issues are unique to particular countries, you may identify problems facing your home region as well. All right, over to you, Fatu.
So in the Gambia, where I am from, the water in urban cities is generally safe to drink. But we do face salinity issues due to River Gambia. So the water supply through boreholes and taps is generally managed by the National Water and Electricity Company, NAWEC, to ensure quality. But generally, the water quality in sub-Saharan Africa is a story of contrast. Cities like Kigali, Accra, Cape Town have invested in water treatment facilities that are meant to deliver clean, safe water right to the household tap. But would you actually drink it? The truth is, water supply is very unpredictable. Aging pipes, intermittent supply, and insufficient treatment mean that water can pick up harmful contaminants along the way, serving as breeding grounds for waterborne diseases like cholera, typhoid, and dysentery. So the era irony is that this is often due to human mismanagement, not nature, that contaminates these precious resources. So at this moment, I want you to join me talk to my colleague here, Michael Oti, who has all the idea and knowledge about water management and water supply in Ghana. Michael, how are you there?
I'm doing very well, Fatu. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Why are you walking around with a glass of water in your hand?
So we're talking about water supply and water quality, and you're already working on a story on water there in Ghana. Tell me, where do you get the water supply from in Ghana?
Well, there are several sources, mostly from the rivers. We've got also underground aquifers. We've got large water reservoirs. And so our water comes from very many different sources.
So that being said, is the water quality the same in all parts of the country?
Unfortunately not. It depends on where you are in the country. In some areas, the water quality is much better than in other areas. And there are lots of reasons for this.
Why is that?
One of the very big reasons would be mining. The activities of mining pollutes water resources. And that coincidentally is the project that I'm working on currently. I'm working on a documentary for 77%, which is, by the way, coming up very, very soon. So look out for that. We are talking about illegal mining in Ghana and how that affects the quality of not just the environment, but also people's lives.
Has anything been done about it? How is this issue being regulated?
It's a very big challenge for Ghana at the moment. And by the way, not just Ghana, this is a problem that cuts across many West African states. And this is closely tied to the increase in gold prices on the international market. This means that a lot more people are getting into artisanal mining, which on the one hand is good for them. But on the other hand, we have consequences like what we are seeing right now on the screen. Water is getting destroyed. Water resources are getting destroyed. Rivers are turning turbid. And people are mostly interested, when I say people, I mean miners, are mostly interested in getting the mineral resources out of the ground, but do not really care about how that impacts the rivers and also the water resources.
But have they been sensitized about the consequences that's happening there in their various communities?
It's a big challenge because illegal mining, or what they would call small-scale mining, is a largely unregulated industry across many West African states. And so the government is not able to educate the people. First of all, it does not even know who is doing what.
Exactly,
where.
yeah.
And to give you some context, in some of the places where I've been for this story, there are people who are hiding in forest reserves. And it took me sometimes 2 hours to drive on a tricycle. Cars cannot access these forest reserves. So you need a small tricycle to travel 2 hours to get to the mining site. And this is happening on the blind side of the government. But the consequences affect everyone. And so, I mean, at every stage, they would argue, some of the miners argue that they dig their own wells. So they are not dependent on rivers or whatever. But what they do not acknowledge is that whatever well that they have dug, they are using the underground water resources. And when they are done with their process of finding gold, that water is poured out and it seeps, it percolates back into the ground. And so mercury used on the surface can find its way back into the underground water resources and still affect people.
People, indeed. Interesting. Well, thank you so much, Michael.
Thanks for coming. Yeah, and I look forward to sharing a lot more of what we found in our Digging Deep documentary on illegal mining with you and also all of our viewers.
Pretty sure they will enjoy this particular piece by you. At the end of the day, the regions that invest in cleaner, more efficient water systems reap the benefits, while those caught in the grip of contamination and corruption face an uphill battle.
Thank you, Fatu and Michael, for those insights. But I'm sure some of you viewers are like, I can't sit around and wait for authorities to finally decide to give us clean water. I want to do something right now. Well, you are at the right place. We at the 77% are proud to present a brand new segment called Science Unlocked. It's with our very own Edith Kimani, whom you all know as brilliant host and as a journalist. But did you know that she also has a passion for science and is very crafty? She's going to tell us how to make our water at home safer by building DIY water filters.
How safe is your tap water? I mean, do you trust it enough to drink it? I don't, which is why I have to buy drinking water. And most people in the city of Nairobi do. I mean, there are places in this country and other parts of Africa where you can find safe filtered drinking water, but not here. So today I want to do 3 things. How safe is tap water? Now, the second thing I want to identify is if I can make this water drinkable. Can I actually make it safe? And how? So that's step number 2. How do you like my handwriting, by the way? And finally, we need to test our results. So we must test in a lab. But first, let's quickly understand where our water comes from. Nairobi sources most of its water from nearby dams as well as some groundwater reservoirs. The problem is that the city doesn't supply enough water, which means that extra water is supplied through water trucks, boreholes, or water cellars. It also